Hi, I'm Larry Tatum, and welcome to my video, Form 8. It's the knife form, and this is one of the forms that kind of got lost in time. It was originally designed by my instructor back in the 60s. It was taught to a few students, and then it kind of got lost in the shuffle and put on the back burner. Many people to this day kind of think that it never really existed, and maybe some of you have been told that. Well, I'm here to tell you that it does exist. It's a fascinating form, and it was designed with the idea to teach you how to use a knife in combat to its fullest potential. Now, as we go along in this form, I want you to understand that we're going to take a knife and we're going to assume, for the purpose of the form and to get the maximum potential out of this weapon, is we're going to assume that the top part is sharp as well as the bottom. It has a hilt, it has a strong butt, so every facet of this knife can be used in battle. Now, there's more to just cutting and slicing and poking with a blade. Knife fighting is very serious business, and before we get started, I want you to understand that, you know, if somebody pulls out a knife, it's better for you to go the other way. Most people that have ever been in a knife fight have come out almost as bad as the person that attacked them. So take my advice. This is not something that you want to stick around to prove that you can do. But if you are forced to use a knife, and you do have one, you'll have that advantage. Now, we're going to use two knives, all right, because we're going to say that both of our hands are going to be equal in battle. And we're also going to assume in this form that our opponent has two knives, and that both edges, the top and the bottom, are also sharp. He has a hilt, and also he can use the butt of it. Now, as I go along in the form, I'll explain more characteristics about the knife and how it can be used for blocking, for defensive as well as offensive purposes as well. Okay? It's a fascinating form. So what I want you to do, if you don't have a knife, even a kitchen knife will do, or get one of those plastic rubber knives that you can buy at a martial arts store. And it's not important at this point in the form that it has a hilt, but later on, if you can find a knife like that, do so. There's many places that do offer these types of Kenpo knives. Now, the Kenpo knife has gone through a lot of different creations. It started with Mach 1 to 2 to Mach 3, 4, and there's even a Mach 5. What I'm going to be using is the Kenpo knife, which is a Mach 2. All right, now for our purposes, we're going to take it slow because I want you to learn the ins and outs of this form. And in this tape, now this tape, I'm not necessarily going to show you a lot of techniques. I'm going to do that in Volume 2, where I'll show you the knife self-defense techniques. But in this tape, I'm going to show you every possible angle that the knife can be used on, both forward and reverse and opposites. And if you're a Kenpo enthusiast, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, I'll explain what we mean by forward and reverse motion. All right, what I want you to do is get your knives, get yourself some room, and make sure that if you're going to use a sharp knife, do what I did. Tape the edges, okay? You can use masking tape. Here's some duct tape that I've used, and it works well. If you don't, and it's a sharp knife, I guarantee you probably will cut yourself at one point in studying this form. All right, go get your knives. If you don't have a gi, it's not necessary. In fact, it's better to use something like a tank top or something where your sleeves don't get in the way. I'll look forward to seeing you in a few moments, and I'll meet you right back here. Hi, welcome back. Okay, I hope you're ready. I am. Let's get started and let's learn this form. All right, now first thing we're going to do is we're going to, like all forms, it has a salutation. And generally a salutation will depict a certain theme of the form. And in this case, the salutation is that the knives are going to give way from a natural weapon to man-made weapons. And you'll see what I mean as we get started. Find yourself a spot, and I'm going to be facing 12 o'clock. Now what I want you to do is stand up straight, take a deep breath, and relax. And one of the things that you're going to find out about this form is that if you're already a martial artist but haven't worked with weapons, that they're going to feel foreign to you because you're going to feel this excessive weight. And in these knives here, this is a lot of weight. It's a lot of metal. And it's going to do something to your coordination a little bit. It's going to make it feel awkward, but as you practice it, you'll gain more coordination through it. So this will actually be a help for you as you go on into your martial arts. But what I want you to do is take both knives, and you're going to take the inside edges, and you're going to face them to 12 o'clock, and they're going to match up, and put your right hand around it and squeeze it, not too tight, and bring it down and tuck it underneath your forearm on the outside, and come to attention. Now we're facing 12 o'clock, and what we're going to do with the salutation is that we're going to cross over, right front crossover, and we're going to bring both hands up. We're going to have the right hand over the left. Now as I come out to a left 45-degree cat stance, I'm going to bring my hands out at the same time my foot comes out, and I'm going to use my knife hand, which is a natural knife. Okay? And we're going to give credit to that. But we're going to switch over to man-made weapons. And when I come into that salutation, watch what I do. I step forward, show my natural knife, bring up the two weapons that are man-made, and I'm going to use them. I pull them apart. Take my index finger, my thumb around the front of the handles, flip them over, and they're both still parallel to each other. Step back with my left foot and my right foot to attention, and make two overlapping circles where we'll have right over left. And what we're going to end up with is an open-end triangle. Now in the Kenpo system, it's a very important angle that we're going to use because this allows us to be universal with our weapons. We have an open-ended triangle. All right? Watch again. Put the blades together. Bring them back to your right hip. Shoulders back. Keep your chin erect. Cross forward. Poke. Bring the weapons up and separate them. Index finger, thumb underneath. Roll them forward. Step back. And make sure that these two overlapping circles end in an open-ended triangle when your right foot also stops moving as you come to attention. They both work together. All right, now once we get there, we're going to start a pattern of motion that we're going to use with the knives, and it's called windmilling. We're going to step off to our left to a horse stance. But as we step off, I want you to windmill the left hand over your head as if you were doing an upward parry or even an upward block, but it's going to be more of an upward parry. But as we do it, the left hand comes up and the right hand comes underneath. But you'll notice that both blades are still parallel at this point. And we make a circle, and we start windmilling till the right hand comes up, the left hand goes on the bottom, and we do it again, and a third time. And then as I bring my left hand up, it comes down as the right hand comes out into an inward block, because we're blocking or cutting, either way, with the right hand. And we cross that angle, and as we cross, we pull back and give room for the other one to come across, and we do it a third time. And we're doing this in a horse stance. Now what I want you to do is bring your knives back parallel, roll them back like this between your middle finger and your thumb. Now this is the hardest part of the form. In a sense, you've got to get used to manipulating these knives. Now what I do is I put my thumb in the center and my middle finger, and I throw them so that they swing back. And what I do is I bring my left foot into my right, and I bring my hands now, not in an overlapping circle, but a kissing circle. Okay, that's where both circles are meeting at this point. And since I demonstrated the windmilling with the knives forward, At this point, we're going to demonstrate the windmilling with the knives back. And this time, as we do it, the right hand comes up as the left hand comes underneath, and we windmill 2, 3 times, and bring the left out, the right out for an inward block. And notice that when you do it, you can do it 2 ways. One, you can bring the blade out and have a separation. It's not wrong, it's different. What I like to see you do is bring that out and have this part of the blade locked right against the outside of your forearm. It gives it much more support, and you'll see as we go along why we use it. It doesn't necessarily mean this is wrong, but I want you to be able to do it this way, and back. Then flip them back over again, and you're going to need to use your index finger again and your thumb to make that flip. Right foot comes in, and you're back to right over left. Okay? Now, let's run through that part again. We have the salutation. It's not hard. You just have to get used to this weight in your hand. All right, now, step forward, make your salute, pull the knives apart, flip them over, step back to your left and your right, let them meet at the same time, and begin your windmilling. Back and forth, and across again, and across again. Flip them back so that the blades are behind you now, and start the same thing on the other side. 2, 3, and left now, right and left. Flip them over, and overlapping circles again. Now at this point, we've learned that through elongated circles that we have a lot of fluid motion with the knives. And you'll find out in my second video that when I actually show you the self-defense techniques with these blades, how we're going to cut on every angle that we're moving on. All right, now we're back here. I want you now to start the finger set. Now the finger set in the Kenpo system, if you know it, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, and you're new to this system, you're going to also learn the finger set along with the knife set. They're both working together. This is just a long finger is what I'm trying to say. If you can do this with your finger, you can do that with the knife. All right, now from this point, you take your left leg, step over to your horse. As you step over, you thrust it out much like you would a thrust punch. You thrust it out eye level and rotate it, get full rotation into it, because you've got to remember that it's poking, it's cutting on this side of the blade, it's torquing, it's cutting on this side, and then on this side again. Get full rotation, do it on the other side, and now do it 3/4 of the way out with your arm to about the height of your solar plexus. And as the right hand moves out, the top hand checks, or in this case, as you'll learn later, it cuts. Then rotate it over and do the left side. Now come underneath and start it with your right hand as it travels along the side of your rib cage, and it only goes to as far as your elbow at this point. And again, you have the left hand on top, so it's checking or cutting. Bring this one over and do it on this side again. Let's go over that again, and we'll just watch what I do. We were here, so now we step off. Thrust, eye level, solar plexus, down to the height of the floating ribs, down to the height of the floating ribs. You notice as I move, I also settle on each strike. It's very important because we're going to use marriage of gravity to help these blades cut. Now, at this point, we thrust the right knife over our shoulder, and the knives are still parallel to each other. From this point, we ended up here. The left goes back, the right goes over the shoulder. Then let's do it on the opposite side. Bring both knives back to the center line, and they're both parallel, and thrust straight up. Now when I do this, I'm going to change my grip from this to my thumb being braced on the hilt as I thrust. It gives me more leverage. Instead of doing this, it relaxes my muscles on top of my wrist and gives me a little more leverage here. At that point, you cross them back, bring them back as if you're striking with your elbows, and then right over left as you cross your arms like this. Torque your left hand down as if you're parrying or blocking or slicing, and bring the other hand up as if at the same time you're slicing, and then whip the blade as if you're hammering with it. Let this go on the inside of your left arm and start it on the other side. And as you do it, you see the blades start to cut, and repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Bring it down to your right side and have your left hand checking, and again, the same type of motion, but on this level. Torque it back, bring the other hand over, same type of thing on this level. Bring your right hand up and have your left hand underneath it and slice. Hook over to the other side of the body, bring this hand up, and this one slices. Okay, now notice that this is no more than windmilling. Okay, now let's take it up to that point from the finger set, or the knife set at this point. We started here, and we brought the left hand up, the right hand 3/4 of the way out, the left hand 3/4 of the way out. Bring the other hand underneath, go to the ribs. Remember, it only goes out as far as your elbow. Bring the other hand over and come underneath. Over your shoulder, over the right shoulder. And notice that both of these blades are cutting as they're traveling across your body. So you can imagine what is actually caught in between these blades as we're traveling. Bring it over the top as if you're doing 2 elbows. Bring it down, thrust out, cross, back up, and slice. And whip. Bring the other side in, slice, whip. Go down to the right side, over to your left side, and hook with your right hand and slice back. Hook with your left hand, slice back. These are inwards, horizontal slices. Hook with your left hand, and then I want you to hit with the butt of the knife, of the handle, and then rake. This is a raking motion, which you'll learn later how this can be caught in the face and torque your opponent. It's very severe. I'll show you how we do it a little later. Bring the other hand up and rake across. Now at this point, I want an overhead hammer and a back hammer. Okay, reverse hammer fist with the left hand. Overhead hammer and reverse with the other hand. Now reverse them, one on the top and one on the bottom. Notice how I'm torquing the blades this way. And this is no more like an underhand heel palm strike, except we're doing it with the blade. Do it with the other side. The same thing. Now put the right hand over the left blade, make your open-end triangle, because you're finishing this part of the finger set. Torque it up to about eye level, bring it up to the height of an upward block, and make a heart shape all the way down to your legs. This is no more than a heart shape at this point. Take your right hand, extend it out, and hook. Take your left hand, extend it out, and hook. Whip your knives back till they're in the reverse position, and bring your left leg into your right leg with 2 meeting circles at this point. All right, now, let's do the finger set, or the knife set, on the left side. We're going to step over to your right, to a horse, and we're going to begin to do it on this side. Now, you notice that we're cutting, but we're using our forearm to brace against the back of this part of the blade, which is not sharp right in here, so our forearm actually fits in there. And so we're going to cut this way. Now this is particularly good when you want to execute a block because it has a lot of backup mass behind the blade, which we'll get into on the second tape. But at any rate, begin the set of striking up to eye level, solar plexus, down to the ribs, down to the ribs. Now at this point, we're going to go over to the right side, then the left side, bring both hands over, and they're parallel again. Thrust up just like we did before, and make your cross, hook underneath, and hook over on top. And now we're going to whip, not with this part of the knife as much as with the butt of the knife. Come on the inside and do it on this side, and bring it back. Go down on your right side, do the same thing over here. And you notice that I'm just torquing, and I'm allowing the knife to move with me. Come back on this side, torque this way again. Take your left arm, bring it up, and slice back. Slice with your right, slice back. Remember this in the finger set where you heel palm and double claw? Well, what we're doing now is we're heel palming and raking with the blade itself, as well as the hilt. Now, overhead, behind us, same thing, overhead and behind us. Torque it here in front, go behind us again, torque it back here, and in front. Now put the left over the right. Make that heart shape again. Bring it out to your sides. Hook with your left, hook with your right. Put your index finger there and your thumb underneath. Flip it over and step back with your right leg to where you started. All right, pretty easy, isn't it? All right, now from this point, with our open-end triangle, we can trap. And what we're going to do in this case, we're going to trap and pull and step back into a right neutral bow. And as we step back, we pull, and then we pivot to a right forward bow. Then we step back and do it on the opposite side. Come forward and step back again and end up where we started. Bring your knives back to your hips. Rotate the blades. Come back to 2 kissing circles. Step back with the right leg and do it now with the blades in this position. Step back to the left. Do this side. Step forward. And back to where we started. Index over, flip. Step forward to attention, right over left. Now from this point, I want you to step off. If this is 12 o'clock, I want you to step off with your left leg to 10 o'clock. We're going to execute a right outward block. It would look like this without the knife. With the knife, it's going to look like this. You've got to remember, though, this is also cutting. It's not just blocking. Or it may be trapping, or it may be turning somebody's wrist. But at any rate, you execute an outward block and pivot into a horse stance at this point. So you are facing this 45, and now you're facing this 45, which is 2 o'clock. As you do, you thrust the blade as you execute the outward block. Now you take the right hand, slide up to approximately 12 o'clock, take the bottom hand, put it on top, so you make a cross. From here, you make a cross. You dig this in with your left hand, do a rear crossover at the same time. Now, since we're working on 45s, you step over to 2 o'clock into a horse. Drop your weight and pull and slice. At this point, we rotate the blades and we begin the opposite side. Make our cross, dig it in, rear cross on that 45 and pull apart again. All right? Now, at this point, rotate your blades again outwardly and step back, if that's 12 o'clock, over to 9 o'clock into a left neutral position. You notice that my right hand is on a 45 degree. This hand is on a 45 this way. Once I get here, I rotate the knife over, so both the knives are parallel again. I step through with my right leg, start turning my knives, step back with my left leg, now facing 9 o'clock. At this point, rotate your knife over. I want you to cross in, not towards 9, but towards 10 o'clock, and I want you to hook. You're in a left front crossover. Both knives are parallel again. Now this is pretty much throughout the form, and you're going to see both knives become parallel this way, this way, this way, this way, but they're going to be parallel in their use. All right, now, crossover, unwind, and as you do, you slice with the left hand and the bottom hand's checking. You step back to 3 o'clock and reverse the position of the knives, have the right on top and the left on the bottom. Rotate the bottom knife, rotate the top knife, step through again, and do the same thing on this side. That's a lot of work, so let's go over it again. All right, now, we ended up, before we got into that, by going to first this technique, dig down, cross, hook. We did the same thing on this side, cross, dig in, hook. Turn them over, step back with your right leg, facing 3 o'clock, step through, slice, step back, cross in to 10 o'clock, unwind and slice, step back again, turn your blades over, and step back again. All right, now, what we're doing is what's called in Kenpo is line reinforcement. Now that means that we may have attacked on one line, but we turned and came back on that same line because a number of things could have happened. Our opponent can be left on the same line we originally were cutting on or striking on. So what we're doing is this back and forth line reinforcement. All right, so I'm going to do it one more time. We ended up in this position, I rotated my knives, turned them back and forth on these lines. You notice that my blades are starting now to move in a fluid fashion. They're almost separate from my arm. There's a lot of, it's like a baton, or if you are into stick fighting, Kenpo stick fighting, which we'll do another tape on that soon, you rotate from the wrist. All right, now watch again. As we came off of this, rotate, watch my hands start to slice, and drop your weight for leverage. Turn, hook, pivot, slice back, step through. Now take your right leg, cross in towards 4 o'clock, right over here. And again, the blades are parallel. Now, instead of repeating the technique, it changes and goes into a cat stance. As it changes, and I'm going to turn it just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. You drop into a right cat stance and you have your left blade over your right. Okay? Once that happens, you make a figure 8 with the left and a figure 8 with the right. It happens immediately. And then you're going to do a right snap kick and a left thrust. Okay? So we had crossed in here. We'd come back. We crossed in with our right leg and immediately went to the cat stance. Figure 8, kick and thrust, and 3 thrusts. 1, 2, 3. And when you do these thrusts, you overlap them. Okay, now you take your right leg, and I'm in a forward bow when I'm doing these thrusts. You step back at this angle, which is 8 o'clock, and you face 2 o'clock. The right's over the top now, figure 8, left figure 8, kick and thrust, and 3 more thrust. 2, 3. Reverse your blades at this point. Now you're going to turn back to this angle, and then you're in a cat stance again, but this time the blades are turned. Figure 8, pull and kick. 1, 2, 3. Now you turn all the way over to this angle. This is the only 48-5 that we haven't covered yet with this pattern. Right hand, left hand, kick and thrust. 1, 2, 3. All right, now from this position, what I want you to do is do a left rear crossover towards 3 o'clock. Flip your blades over at the same time. Now you're going to step out with your right leg into a horse stance. As you step out, drop into your stance and execute a figure 8 right over left and turn them over with the palms facing up. Then you're going to reverse that motion and come back with the palms facing down. Since we did it with the blades facing, let's turn it at this point and start with the left over the right, palm up, reverse it, and palm down. At this point, flip them over, do a left rear crossover again on the same line towards 3 o'clock, and hammer. Boom! With both your blades, you're going to hammer and drop your weight. Then you're going to pivot out of this stance, and as you pivot out, you're going to thrust with your right hand and then make a cross as you pivot now into a forward bow. Following this line of attack, I want you to do a left front snap kick and then plant in a horse and rip as if you were doing a downward block, but with both blades this way. Repeat it on the opposite side. Bring your blades up, torque them in, and hammer. Unwind, cross, make a cross here, follow that line of attack, execute a snap kick, plant down and drop your weight, and slice again with both blades. Now at this point, what I want you to do is flip them around, step forward into a right neutral bow and cross the right over the left. At this point, this is a cross from my throat. Following that line, do a left rear crossover towards 12 o'clock, leap off to a right one-legged stance until you're in a crane stance, and you're going to pull. Now I don't want this out of the outer rim, and we'll teach you more about the outer rim theory for those of you that never had it before in the next tape. But stay within the rim and almost at eyebrow level. And as you do that, you're in a crane stance, and this hand is in a downward position, just like a downward block. At that point, reverse the circle of the bottom hand, slice, follow that angle with your left hand slice, follow that angle with your right hand, and anchor. And as you anchor, you kick and slice and hit with the butt at the same time. Plant in your neutral, execute another slice, go into a right front in-place twist stance, bring both the blades across each other, and repeat it so it happens twice, and back out. Now, following 6 o'clock, because we're going to do the opposite side, step to 6, the left is over the right, rear crossover, and do the same thing on this side. Slice with the right hand now, with the left hand, and anchor. Kick and slice. We're actually facing 10 o'clock now. Hit with the left hand, twist stance again, unwind, twist stance again, and unwind. I want you to do this now, but with the blades open, so torque them back open, and face 3 o'clock, and as you do it, you cross your right over the left, and rear crossover to a 90 degree, which is 3 o'clock. Slice, hook. Now we're doing the same pattern except with the blades open. Kick and poke, slice, 1, 2. You notice how my blades are turning back and forth. We're going to have to do it on the other side. So cross towards this angle, repeat it over here, and back, forth, back, forth. So you've covered all 4 angles at this point. 2 on the 90s and 2 on the 45s. At this point, rotate the blade so that the blade is facing you again. Step forward into a horse and hook and thrust, but not all the way over, a vertical thrust with the left hand. Make a figure 8, slice underneath, so both of them are parallel again. Now do the opposite on this side. Now watch how I do that again. What I did was when I came out of this, into this position, I stepped forward into my horse, and I brought my right hand to hook it, left hand up, vertical thrust. Made a figure 8, a small one, came underneath, and then did it on this side. This is one of the hardest part of the forms, over and under. All right, now what I want you guys to do is I want you to take your knives and I want you to turn them over until the handle, the right handle, that's the bottom one, is on top of the left handle. Now as you do that, you step forward into a right neutral bow. You pull them apart so that the top knife now is in your left hand and the bottom knife is in your right hand. Okay? Now watch again. We started from here, and as we hooked, we came up, made a figure 8, went from here. Now we rotated them over, and you step forward and pull them both apart. All right, now you've succeeded in changing the blades, and you'll see there's a reason for this, as you'll see in the second video. Now what I want you to do is bring the bottom blade up, and now they're actually parallel again in this crossed position. So you bring the bottom blade up and you hook both blades. Take the left hand, make a full circle, and slice underneath from here. Now watch this again. All right, we were here. Figure 8, underneath. Turn them. Step at the same time. Hook, over, slice. You're in a neutral, go to a forward bow, and execute a left outward like a hand sword, okay, but it's with the blade as the other one pulls back. Okay, watch this again. It's the tricky part, so we'll take our time here. We were here, figure 8, over, put them together, pull them apart, hook, slice, pull. Now put the left on top of the right and do the same thing on this side and pull them apart. Now I'm going to back up so I stay in the camera for you. And as I do that, we hook again, slice with the right hand, and pull them apart again. At this point now, with the knives in this position, I want you to cover to your rear with your left leg into a left reverse bow. As you do an outward downward block with the bottom hand, except that the palm is going to be up. It's going to be at this angle right here. You make a counterclockwise circle, step through and make a diagonal slice with the left arm and bring the other one underneath as if you're lifting. And you go to a forward bow and they both lift together and they're parallel. You can see it slightly at this angle. Now when I do the other side, you'll actually see it facing the camera. You step forward, switch the blades again at this angle, pull them apart. Again, you're in a reverse bow. Notice the palm is up here. Now this is clockwise. Step forward, diagonal slice, dig them in, and use a forward bow at this point. Okay, now from here we're going to step through and cover again. We're going to go off to a slight angle with our left leg. We're going to put the blades on top of each other, switch them again, and we're going to turn and face this 45-degree angle. Basically, if that's 12, that's 8 o'clock. Rotate the right over so they're both parallel again, and rake down into a twist stance at this point. Hook with your right hand, hook with your left. Again, pull them apart, go into an in-place twist stance, and thrust. At this point, turn your blades and push to this 45. It's a push-pull at this point. Bring your blades up again, and I'll turn so you can see them. You put the right on top of the left, pull them apart, rotate them, rake down this side, hook over the top, and twist stance. And this hooks and traps as this one thrusts. Step off to face 6 o'clock into a right neutral bow and thrust again. Step forward with your left leg, again switching the knives from one to the other. Do a right rear crossover. Turn and face 12 o'clock where you guys are. Go to a crane stance. Step back, switch your blades again. Crane stance on this side. Flip the blades over, or the blade, your right hand, and end up in a left neutral bow facing 12 o'clock. At this point, go into an in-place twist stance and hammer. And as you hammer, you drop your weight and let the hammer carry through and come up, turn the blade and hammer this side. Step forward, dig them in. You're in a right neutral bow. Hammer and torque out again. But this time, as you torque out, you actually step forward into your horse. Now, at this point, I want you to make an hourglass shape, and more than likely you probably understand that this is contouring your opponent's body. Hourglass shape, bring it up, cross your blades, come back down, but make a full circle. Bring the blades into your chest, and then take your thumbs, put them on top of the handle like this, dip in, push out. Bring them back over your shoulders as if you're doing 2 upward elbows. Hammer down and hook. Trap and slap with the blades. Take your thumbs, slice, thrust, and ream, and drop your weight when you do it. All right, now bring your elbows in and hammer right over left, left over right, and to the sides on both of them, and make your cross, all right, or your X. Now at this point, we're going to take them back from whence they came, so to speak. So we bring them together, rotate our hand counterclockwise, because we're going back in time, in a sense that we use in Kenpo, and we step forward and begin our salute. And back, and you finish up. Okay, now, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort. And like I said before, the hardest thing that you're going to have to overcome in learning this form is how to feel comfortable with some man-made object in your hands, particularly if you guys have been practicing for a number of years. You're used to having your hands empty. But as you practice, you're going to find that this is going to add coordination to what you already know. And if you learn how to use these knives, you can put almost any other type of weapon in your hand and automatically adapt with that weapon, providing that you understand the characteristics of the weapon, because each one obviously is different. You've got to understand what a weapon can do and what it cannot do. Now, when we use the Kenpo knives, In a sense, if you watch me throughout the form, I'm actually freestyling or, in a sense, sword fighting or fencing with my opponent. And as we get into the other tape, I'll show you why we're doing this. There's times when we want to close the gap to where we're in the last zone of combat, which is contact manipulation. And there's other times when we want to be just into the second. You know, there's 4 zones of contact. We want to be in the second one. And sometimes we want to be in the third zone of contact. But we'll learn this as we go into the next tape. It's going to be a fascinating tape. Not only are these defensive techniques, but I'm going to teach you offensive techniques with these weapons. When you're done with both of these tapes, you should have a thorough knowledge of the art with the knives and should be able to construct your own techniques. And remember, in the Kenpo system, that's what you're supposed to do, is you're supposed to take the basic curriculum and then adapt it to you. And that's when the art truly changes, is when you put your own signature to it. So we're going to cover every angle possible using the knife in the next tape. But learn this form first, okay? If you learn this form properly, when you start putting these patterns to use, it'll be easy. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next tape. I hope you enjoy this one.